In Pumpkin Hill, you are confronted with your first brush with the supernatural world, other than being an anthropomorphic red echidna. Of course, it doesn't raise many questions. Sure, the ghosts in question, Boos, don't come at me Nintendo, are somewhat creepy to behold, but they are an extension of the level and the environment it takes place within. That's to say, they feel natural and appropriate to Pumpkin Hill. Those same ghosts follow you through the mines in a later level, Aquatic Mine. The level gives further rise to a more eerie atmosphere. It's more grim, less colorful, and even claustrophobic. Again, the atmosphere of the stage feels appropriate to the ghosts within. However, once you traverse through the desert to visit a giant talking egg, an eager welcoming committee from Gun shows up, a tainted version of an old friend wants you dead, and those ghosts are still here. But you want to know who else is?
What the? A ghost?
King Boom Boo, a rather unnerving creature that Knuckles must fight after completing Death Chamber. Exactly who is this ghost? Hell, who are any of these ghosts? In Pumpkin Hill and Aquatic Mine, they fit in those stages. Their inclusion was a byproduct of the darker tones within those levels. Yet King Boom Boo and the Boos are just here. Prison and Egg Quarters, Death Chamber, Pyramid Cave, and the boss fight. Where did they come from? Why Eggman's base? Is Eggman even aware his base is home to many lost souls? These are questions I've thought about for some time. What are the origins of King Boom Boo? The architecture of Hidden Base and Sand Ocean tell us that while modified to be Eggman-centric, an older civilization was present at some point. The inside of Pyramid Cave and Death Chamber look withered and dated too, so perhaps the ghosts we see are just remains of that civilization. Maybe King Boom Boo was a pharaoh? Well, case closed, die in the sun, no. As a madman who plastered his face on every wall within, Eggman would almost certainly be aware of the Boos. The Boos are hostile no matter which side you're on, so did Eggman just shoot them into submission using his Egg Walker? I don't believe that's practical. It seems doubtful he'd willingly let the ghosts take refuge in his base, even as a defense mechanism when he has the E1000 not-so-gammas to do so. The other theory would be that Eggman converted the pyramid to his image and then the Boos appeared afterwards. That would explain why Eggman isn't aware of them, as he clearly didn't spend a massive portion of the game inside his own base, which, as shown, the ghosts don't reside outside of it. The Tails Tube series, featured on the official Sonic the Hedgehog YouTube channel, does give us some potential answers, though not confirmed to be canon. Taking place during the Halloween episode, Tails tells a story that involves a king and his knights seeking out a treasure inside a pyramid, a talisman that can give eternal life so long as a sacrifice is made. Throughout the story, each knight vanishes one by one, eventually leaving the king completely alone by the time he acquires the treasure. As he touches the talisman, the king himself becomes a being of eternal damnation. King Boom Boo. On one hand, the story implies that most Boos are the former knights in the tale. However, why do they reside in Pumpkin Hill or Aquatic Mine then? If this story is true, perhaps the king would have sought out to conquer more land in the likes of such locations, but realized his men couldn't overthrow the Boos, so he wanted immortality to guarantee his victory? On the other hand, however, it implies that this story takes place a great deal of time ago, making it likely, albeit difficult, to believe that Eggman fortified the pyramid way past when this all happened. This is clearly a tale with a lot of holes. It doesn't seem impossible to believe Tails' interpretation of the story, but when considered in a modern context, Eggman renovating his base knowing that I got fruit roll-up for a tongue linger so closely seems unbelievable. It could simply be that the E1000s took care of it while Eggman remained elsewhere during that process, but given that a singular ghost can so easily restrain Sonic, Knuckles, or Rouge, I'm pretty sure a group of Boos could dismantle We Have Gamma at home in seconds. Maybe the ambiguity is what keeps King Boom Boo interesting. Perhaps we are better off embracing Knuckles' shock as well as our own.
What the? A ghost?
Ultimately, if Sonic Team does ever tackle King Boom Boo, I would be interested to see where his origin lies. Until then, he is an empty soul, devoid of conscience, history, and mortality.